Hello and welcome to the QTV News Desk. My name is Chitalu Chinsenge. Headlines: President Edgar Lungu has called for practical and sustainable approaches that will facilitate translation of the collective will and commitment to food and nutrition security priorities. And the Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested Royal Member of Parliament Chimba Kambweli's son for being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. And now the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu has implored stakeholders to look for practical and sustainable approaches that will facilitate a translation of the collective will and commitment of food and nutrition security priorities. The head of state said this in a speech read on his behalf by Vice President Inonge Wina during the official opening of the 2018 National Food and Nutrition Summit in Lusaka. President Lungu notes that latest statistics reflect an upward trend of obesity, especially among women of childbearing age, from 12% in 2007 to 19% in 2013. He says overweight and obesity are risk factors for nutrition-related non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, cancer, hypertension, and other cardiovascular diseases. President Lungu says a cultural shift is needed to bring together nutritionists, health workers, educationists, lawmakers, fitness coaches, lifestyle medicine professionals, psychologists, civic and political leaders, the church, and the traditional leaders, among others, to promote a healthy lifestyle. The head of state has emphasized the need for all stakeholders to work together in order to walk the talk and end all forms of malnutrition.
For us to achieve these results, we need political will, which this working PF government has so far exhibited, and I can guarantee that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is also imperative that we mainstream nutrition and physical exercise across sectors such as health, education, water, agriculture, urban planning, regional development, marketing, and even food regulation and taxation, among others. It is easy for one to focus on undernutrition and forget the emerging and equally big problem of overnutrition, which leads to obesity. Latest statistics reflect an upward trend of obesity, especially among women of childbearing age, from 12% in 2007 to 19% in 2013. I hope, Minister, these figures are accurate, because I see more.
And African Bank representative Mary Monyahu has noted with concern that nutrition programs are underfunded. She says there is need to ensure that these programs are heavily funded. Mrs. Monyahu says the bank remains committed to ensuring that it helps and supports this critical sector in order to promote better human development. Meanwhile, United Nations Scaling Up Nutrition's Sun Movement Coordinator Gerda Verbeek has encouraged the government to ensure that it continues to invest in nutrition programs in order to reap better results.
As the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, said, stunted children today means stunted economies tomorrow. But there's an underlying problem in the way we finance nutrition, and we must hold ourselves and each other accountable. Funding for nutrition programs is severely stunted. When you have stunted financing for the extremely poor, then you get even more stunted economies.
And there's my second how, the how on the outcomes. It is, I hope that there will be the outcome that the government is determined to invest more for nutrition from the domestic budget. Because everybody understands there are always constraints, there are debts, there are other difficulties, etc. But once the government commits to invest from the domestic budget, there will be support from all sides, also to look into how to solve the debts.
Roan Member of Parliament Chimba Kambwili's son, Mwamba, has been released on police bond. Earlier yesterday, the Anti-Corruption Commission ACC arrested Mwamba Kambwili and charged him with 2 counts of being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. And his lawyer, Christopher Mundia, says Mwamba is expected to appear in court on the 24th of May 2018. Meanwhile, Mr. Chimba Kambwili has described his son's arrest as political persecution meant to intimidate him. He says President Edgar Lungu should stop using law enforcement agencies to fight his family. Mr. Kambwili, who is also National Democratic Congress leader, says President Lungu should leave his children out of the political battles.
Hi.
What's the update? What's the update?
Yeah, my son has been charged with an offense of being in possession of money believed to be proceeds of crime, which he deposited in my account. It is surprising that now when you send a son with the money, go to the bank and deposit it in my account, it becomes a crime. But I know that this is political persecution and trying to intimidate me, but I cannot be intimidated. The only thing I can appeal to Lungu, leave my family out of this. Let you, Lungu, and me fight, but leave my children out of it, because you've also got children. I am ready for you, but please leave my family out of this, because this is a lot of nonsense. How do I send my own son to go and deposit money in my account? It becomes an offense. I think we are getting out of hand. Yeah? Some people need to be taken to China and be checked properly, because this is getting out of hand.
I'll be very police board.
Yes, you
Fast.
Patriotic Front Secretary General Davis Mwela has toasted the ruling party's victory in the just ended local government by-elections, in which it has grabbed 5 council seats previously held by the UPND, while it has retained all 7 seats it previously held. The PF has won 12 out of 16 by-elections held on Monday. Speaking during a press briefing in Lusaka, Mr. Mwela says this shows that the people still have confidence in the ruling party. Mr. Mwela says opposition UPND has only managed to defend 3 out of 9 seats they previously held. He says the Kasampa 1 is in dispute and will be determined by the Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ, as both the PF and UPND candidates got 209 votes each. Mr. Mwela says the ruling party is taking over the UPND strongholds without leaving any stone unturned, because Zambians are fatigued with UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema's politics of bitterness and hatred.
The people of Zambia have spoken yet again. The people of Zambia have given us a signal. The Patriotic Front has demonstrated yet again that it remains Zambia's #1 party of choice. Under the leadership of His Excellency President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, Zambians have reaffirmed their confidence in the ruling party. Patriotic Front has defended all its 7 seats. Further, of the 9 seats previously under UPND, PF has taken 5 seats. In short, UPND has only defended 3 seats out of 1 or the 9 seats they previously held, as 1 seat in Kasempa district is in dispute to be determined by Electoral Commission of Zambia.
Meanwhile, the PF Secretary General says the ruling party will now turn its focus on the Chilanga parliamentary by-election. He says the party has received over 10 applications from suitable candidates who have shown an interest in standing on the PF ticket. Mr. Mwila says the PF candidate for the Chilanga by-election will be announced on Monday next week after the PF Central Committee meeting slated for this weekend, where the candidates will be selected.
And not only that, we have received 10 applications, those who want to stand in Chilanga. And we are going to have a central committee at the weekend on Saturday, and we are going to decide on who would be our candidate. And we'll make an announcement on Monday morning here at the Secretariat. Not only that, we have made a commitment as a party that we are going to participate in the coming dialogue, which is being spearheaded by ZCID, and ZCID has started meeting all the political party presidents, and they've written to us that they meet our president, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and we inform the nation when the date will be set for the president to meet the ZCID so that we
has officially handed over the controversial copper slag dump site famously known as Black Mountain in Kitwe to Chapamo Minerals Processing Company, a company formed by the Jerabos and Nkana Alloy, a Chinese company. Speaking during a handover ceremony in Lusaka, Mines and Minerals Development Minister Richard Musukwa says Nkana Alloy Company will hold 90% shareholding, while Chapamo Minerals will hold the remaining 10%. Mr. Musukwa has reaffirmed government's commitment to continue ensuring that security of tenure in terms of licenses is respected, followed, and protected. He has commended Nkana Alloy for exhibiting a high level of understanding in helping government resolve the outstanding matter in the view of mitigating the joblessness for the youths and the people in Kitwe.
I'm aware that at one time the Jerabos, the former Jerabos, because we don't have Jerabos now, the former Jerabos, through their representative, had even offered to buy the 90% shares of Nkana Alloy. And I'm aware that also Nkana Alloy offered to buy the 10% of the Jerabos through ZCCIMH. So it's a question of people trying to, eliminate the others from the system. This is an equation that we all need to ensure that we participate and you have government support. Mr. Chairman, there are certain responsibilities which government through my ministry will expect you as a majority shareholder to take responsibility, and that you cannot pass to other parties. The issue of ensuring that there is peace and security and also security of tenure on that property falls squarely on you, the largest shareholder. It does not exclude you, our colleagues. It is your responsibility to ensure that this resource is exploited in an environmentally friendly manner. And let me warn that in the past, the Jerabos have been known to cause havoc to our people in Usakile, in Kitwe, or on the Copper Belt. I think we need to ensure that we pass on the correct message, that we are not in that mode. We are in a mode to ensure that we exploit our resources.
And Nkana Alloy Secretary Robson Malipenge has assured government that the company will employ the local people.
And we want to assure government, as in Nkana Alloy, the Chinese investor, we want to support the government, the youth empowerment program, and we want to work together with our colleagues as we want to bury the past and open a new chapter. And we want to extend a hand of friendship to our colleagues to feel free to interact with us, and also we'll be calling upon them as we want to go forward. And we are looking forward to visit the mine together with the colleagues and under the supervision of the Minister of Mines as soon as possible.
Speaking earlier, Chapamo Minerals Processing Company shareholder Shawi Fawazi has appealed to the majority shareholder in the Corpus Lag dam site to help add value by putting up permanent structures that can empower Zambians. In Chapamo Minerals, acting chairperson Nicodemus Kaluvo has thanked President Lungu for changing their status from illegal miners to legal.
To the minister, I would just like to commit that we have learned a lot of things as we've been working previously. We will not disappoint the ministry, we will not disappoint the president, we will not disappoint our fellow Zambians. What we are looking at is to give a very good example so that even our colleagues who may be wanting to push for something, they can look at us as an example to say, oh, this is what we did, this is what Zambians can do. To our colleagues, the majority shareholders in Kanaloi, we are also committing to you to say, be free, it's no longer Jalaboz. This is Chapamo. Chapamo means together. So we would like to work together with you, right?
But we'd like to highlight one point. This is a depleting asset. And we would like to look at our partners to help us add value instead of us being always selling things off. Because eventually this thing will now deplete and then the people have no more money. So, I mean, we need to empower people by adding value, maybe helping us even in smaller plants, smaller operations where Zambians are empowered for a long time. Because once we deplete this asset, people will be on the streets again and they'll be knocking on your door, Minister. So, I mean, it's not about them buying that material at a higher price. We would like them to help us set up permanent businesses and plans that can at least empower Zambians for the long run. We're here to work with them, but I mean, they need to share some of the technology and the knowledge they have with us instead of us being just conduits.
Meanwhile, Mines Minister Richard Musukwa has described unacceptable the continued mismatch that exists in terms of development in the mining areas where mineral resources are exploited. Speaking when he officiated at the Gem Cannon Investment Holdings auction sale in Lusaka, Mr. Musukwa said mining houses should take center stage in promoting development in local communities where they operate. And Mr. Musukwa has praised Gem Canton Investment for organizing the auction sale, as it serves as a platform not only to market the gemstones but as a means to promote Zambia as a preferred investment and tourism destination. At the same event, Emerald and Semi-Precious Stones Mining Association of Zambia President Victor Kalesha encouraged government to continue supporting the growth of the mining sector, as it is essential in sustaining the economy. And Gem Canton Chief Executive Officer Abdul Ba says a mining company has engaged in some value addition processes in order to enhance the quality of its gemstones. He adds that to supplement government's effort in poverty alleviation, the mining company will continue to plow back part of its profits into the community in which they operate in.
If I go to mining houses and ask what they are doing in their communities, you will note that most of them will speak in millions. We have invested in $10 million in the community. We have invested $20 million in the community. When you look at the kind of work that they refer to in terms of billion, they do not match with what is on the ground. Government would like to see a huge improvement from the mining houses in terms of participation in our communities. Because if we do not do that, it is a time bomb, Mr. CEO. Our people will always see your investment as a means to subject our people to poverty and exploit the resources and leave our country with, wars. Wars around depreciation and huge deforestation, which we cannot account for. I want to take this opportunity, Mr. Chairman and CEO, to urge the mining industry to provide our country with tangible development in terms of infrastructure, which our people are able to benefit today and in the future, even when the mining operation.
Higher Education Minister Nkanduluo has noted the need for Zambia and Africa as a whole to have skilled and highly trained manpower at a postgraduate degree level to sustain growth of higher education. Speaking when she officiated at the official launch of the World Bank-funded Africa Centers of Excellence in Zambia, which will be based at the University of Zambia and Copperbelt University, Professor Nkanduluo expressed concern that the environment in Africa is not fully charted and creates a high risk to humans and animals, in which over 80% of the infectious disease burdens are found with an estimated human resource capacity of only 3%. Professor Luo says the existing deficit, if left unchecked, will further expose the populace to emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. She cited the recent outbreak of Ebola in West Africa, where the world had to mobilize human skilled personnel, mostly from the developed world, to fight the disease. Professor Luo adds that the country recently recorded a number of diseases such as anthrax, sleeping sickness, influenza, and highly hemorrhagic fever viruses, which could not be treated quickly due to lack of enough skilled personnel. She says the African Center of Excellence for Infectious Disease of Humans and Animals is therefore coming at the right time. And Professor Luo has appealed to the Copperbelt University Africa Center of Excellence for Sustainable Mining to develop and promote sustainable practices in the mining sector.
You are being called Africa's Centers of Excellence. What you do is going to put Zambia on the pedestal. What you do is going to invite other people from other countries to come and learn from us. My dream as your Minister of Higher Education, and probably why people don't like the changes that I'm bringing to the table, is because my dream is to create educational tourism, where we raise the bar of education in Zambia, and we can draw the 9 countries that surround Zambia's economy into Zambia, and we can draw our educational economy out into those countries. So these 2 centers are critical to that dream of educational tourism, because our colleagues around this country will be coming here to learn, and a lot of you will be invited out there to go and even teach on the experiences that you are getting from.
The newly formed Zambia Institute for Labor Research and Development, ZLARD, has observed that the current form of investment Zambia is attracting has suppressed workers' voices in the country, and the institute has expressed disappointment with employers who are ignoring labor laws meant to protect employees in the country. Presenting the Institute's maiden research report dubbed Picking Crumbs from the Master's Table, how the minimum wage regulations have failed to protect workers in Zambia, which coincided with the launch of the Institute, ZLARD Executive Director Professor Traiwo Kalusopa said the low levels of compliance by employers to the minimum wage regulations is disappointing. He says some employers have continued paying workers below the minimum wage, while labor inspectors have remained dormant due to lack of capacity. In a speech read on her behalf by Ministry of Labor Permanent Secretary Barnaby Mulenga, Labor Minister Joyce Nonde has commended the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, ZCTU, for establishing the institute. The minister is hopeful that through research, the institute will be able to provide guidance on policy matters and other issues affecting workers in the nation. Speaking earlier, ZCTU President Shimbankole observed that Zambia's labor market has remained under-researched. He has since called for more stakeholders' engagement if ZLARD is to succeed.
The payments were actually below even the minimum wage itself. That is a complete worrying trend. And interviews from the ZCTU and the other stakeholders, including the Ministry of Labor, indicated that. But what was worrying also is that the Ministry of Labour did indicate that there are problems of funding and challenges in terms of monitoring that kind of compliance in terms of that. So they have inadequate resources and there is inadequate capacity in terms of the labour inspectors to enforce the legislation that we have. That is a worry.
Poor wages and conditions of service, and as such we expect this centre to collect, analyse and interpret information on wages, conditions of employment, company productivity and profits, economic trends in the industry and the country as a whole, job grading, cost of living, pension and pension funds. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to appeal to the staff who will be in charge of this institution to make regular contacts with union branches and shop floor leaders.
National Science and Technology Council Chairperson Henry Musenge has welcomed government's decision to develop nuclear science and technology in the country. Dr. Musenge says that to a large extent, the move will help Zambia to be able to export nuclear raw materials to neighboring countries once a nuclear power plant is up and running. He says against this backdrop, the council is in full support of the introduction of nuclear energy in the country. He says people should not have a negative perception of the introduction of the nuclear plant in the country because it is not only useful for war purpose but also medicinal purposes. Dr. Musenge tells Q News that the nuclear element is critical for treating ailments such as cancer and testing patients for specific illnesses. Mr. Musenge believes that once the nuclear plant is installed, Zambia will be in a better position to reduce importation of nuclear elements because they will be manufactured locally.
And I think the minister has articulated to that as a developing country, the intention is not to use it for war, it is for beneficial purposes. And if you look at the array of ailments in the country, whether it's cancer, whether it's measurement and assessment, testing patients for specific illnesses, nuclear elements are very critical. And that's why the government said instead of ever importing all the requirements, and the government has been importing this as evidenced when you go to the various hospitals in the country. So for a good purpose, and Zambia would be in a strong position to reduce importing elements and start manufacturing them in our country. And we think that it is possible at some stage, once this is developed to a large extent, that this could also find markets in the neighboring countries who don't have the raw material. So it's a welcome move, and we are fully aware and supportive of government move in this respect.
The Zambia Correctional Service Deputy Commissioner Dr. Chileshe Chisela says that the only way to stop male and female inmates from having sexual intercourse is by providing and regulating conjugal rights for inmates. Dr. Chileshe says that while male and female inmates are not allowed to meet, it is impossible to rule out the possibility of male and female inmates not meeting to have sexual intercourse because prisoners are also human beings. He has since appealed to government to provide for regulated conjugal rights for inmates if Zambia is to exercise at least a minimum standard rules as stipulated in the Mandela Rules. Minister of Tourism and Arts Charles Banda has said the government remains committed to the Beijing Declaration of the 5th Ministerial Conference of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, CAC. Speaking during the cultural performance by Nanjing Culture and at delegation at the National Institute of Public Administration, NIPA main campus, the minister said the two countries reaffirmed to continue to strengthen people-to-people and cultural exchanges and cooperation. He said he is particularly pleased to note the extended visibility to the cultural sector, which now falls under the Ministry of Tourism and Arts. Mr. Banda says such a gesture will go a long way in the development of the arts and culture sector in Zambia.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zambia cherishes the warm relations that exist between the two sister countries. You will agree with me that the People's Republic of China and the Republic of Zambia have enjoyed sound and mutual relations which have enabled the two sister countries to easily cooperate in various developmental sectors without any prejudice. This is highly commendable. I therefore wish to thank the founding fathers of our two great nations, Chairman Mao Zedong and Mr. Kenneth Kaunda, for ensuring that the brotherly relations existed, especially in the globalized world that demands for interdependence and multilateral affiliations. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I am particularly pleased to note that you have extended visibility.
President Edgar Lungu has called for practical and sustainable approaches that will facilitate translation of the collective will and commitment to food and nutrition security priorities. The Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested Rand Member of Parliament Shimba Kambuyi's son for being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime. Ends the news. Pleasant viewing and God bless.